There's something else on here which is a little bit alarming as well, and it has mentioned that a car has got a mileage discrepancy. Good morning, good afternoon and good evening. Welcome back to my car dealership and welcome to a bit of a different video. So as you well know, you've already watched the channel and you subscribe. I have good times in here. I have very bad times, very dark and bad times. And I also have indifferent times, but today is going to be a random time because this is a Porsche 968 that's been offered to me by a chap's dad who bought a C63 from me last week, the white one, you might have seen the video, and he said, look, my dad's got an old classic Porsche, is it something you fancy a bit of? And obviously, every car dealer goes, yes, yes, whatever it is, yes. But this has come in, and it's a little bit unique, so I kind of want to go through it with you today, and just see if you can help me really, because I'm trying to work out how much it's worth, which is the big question when it comes to classic cars, and this is genuinely now classed as a classic car, so it needs to be treated with a little bit of respect. So let's go into the detail as to what makes this different, a little bit of history about the Porsche Transaxle, which is what one of these cars is, and what I think it might be worth. Are we ready? So for those of you that don't know what a transaxle Porsche is, which I didn't know much about until about an hour ago, I'm joking, I did research last night, I've known for 24 hours. Basically what it means is the engine's in the front and the gearbox is in the back, and they're connected by something called a torque tube. Now, these cars are really interesting, and I'm surprised that the values are actually lower than I thought they were going to be. So this car came out around about the same time as a Porsche 911 993, and those cars are changing hands for telephone numbers, whereas these don't seem to be worth quite as much money. But I actually think there's something more unique about them, and they're a little bit different, and they're certainly steeped in history. So essentially, the Porsche 924 was the first generation of this transaxle setup. It essentially came out in 1976, and what happened was VW went to Porsche and went, can you design as a sports car? And they went all the way through the process, had a VW engine in it, pretty much went up to the launch point, and VW pulled the plug. So what Porsche did is they bought the rights for it, and that was a good move because they sold a lot of the 924. They then went on to the 944, and subsequently they've ended up at the 968. Now the reason they've named this sort of totally different, if you look at it numerically, is because it's meant to be a totally different car. But the pedigree is still there from the initial 924. I'm going to talk you through why. Transaxle is a weird word that I keep struggling to say. The amount of text that we've done on this is obscene, but essentially what it means is there's an engine in the front and the gearbox, bizarrely, is in the back, and they're connected by a torque tube. Now the rationale for that is it gives you a really well balanced car. Now this unfortunately isn't taxed, isn't tested, but I have managed to quickly whiz it around the block at the bottom of our private yard here. I say private, it's just not public. Makes me sound posh, that, doesn't it? I'm not very posh. And it does drive rather well indeed. But that's not the kind of really exceptional thing about it. The particularly exceptional thing about these is when you run a torque tube from the front to the back, you can sometimes end up with a car which is very shaky, very rattly, and feels very uncomfortable to drive. However, in order to counter that, what they essentially did is they ran a balance shaft in the engine. They had variable valve timing in there as well. It was essentially they had to buy the rights off Mitsubishi for the engine, or pay them for every engine that was made. And the engine is buttery smooth as a result of that. It's also a 4-cylinder, because they couldn't fit a 6-cylinder in there, with 3 litres of capacity. So it's actually quite a bit of history. Should you have a quick look under the bonnet? That is genuinely how this car's turned up to me. It's absolutely mint. You can see where they could only fit a 4-cylinder in here because you really are running out of room quite quickly. It's absolutely immaculate under here, and I have had a look down the chassis legs and everything, and it looks like a really nice original car. The struts are going a little bit, but they're not very expensive to replace, so I don't think that'll be an overkill to get right for the next customer. But this right here is history, and I think that stuff like this hasn't had its run yet, and I do feel like there's going to be a market for these moving forwards. Unfortunately, they're exchanging hands like the 924, the 944, for like £1,000, £2,000, so there's a lot of snotters out there. However, this looks rather nice. Proper sound that, isn't it? It's got pop-up headlights, which are a bit weird because you can see them, but they still pop up. So I actually prefer the older model for that reason. There's a couple of changes on the outside as well from the 944, so the wing mirrors are different, the whole back end of the car is different. They really facelifted this. They really tried hard when they released the 968. Now, when you look at the spec of this particular car, it's finished in what they call, or what they think they call, Tahoe blue metallic. And I can't find another one in this colour, which I think makes it really unique. But it's not the thing that I think is particularly unique about that. We're going to go through that on the inside of it. Now, the one thing that I've spotted is that the wheels on this car are 16-inch. However, on the original bill of sale, they're 17-inch wheels. Fortunately, the owner's still got the original ones. So at least we've got some sort of originality still going on. To be honest, I'm a bit lost. However, I'm going to show you why I'm lost now. So just dive inside it. The interior of this car is super cool, like super cool. And there's a smell in here that if you could bottle it, you could sell it to every man over 40 years of age for a lot of money. It just smells old, but in a good way. You know, like the smell of a lawnmower just gets you aroused. I'm on my own. I think I'm on my own with that one. Gets me aroused. Anyway, the original bill of sale in here, which is super cool, it was originally sold in 1992 to a doctor, which is good, I think. And it's sold for £43,500. And it's got the spec on here as well. So it's got leather bolsters, multi-cloth inserts to the seats, which I've never seen before on one. I've done a lot of research. I can't find another one like it. It's got alarm system vent switch, whatever that is. The cup wheels that I mentioned before. Graduated tint on the top of the windscreen, which is an option. Now, Porsche options have gone mad since this. This is a really well-spec car. Electric sunroof, which you can pop out. So they do a convertible one of these as well. And from what I've read and what I've watched, they're arguably not the one to have because it was never a car built to have its roof ripped off it. Whereas sort of like the 911s of the, certainly the new era, were. So there's an argument the convertible isn't the one to go for, but certainly get one that's got essentially a Targa top in it. So you can drive to the south of France with your bimbo, beautiful lady, and enjoy the fine sunshine. So it's also got full climate control in here as well, which is air conditioning. Now there's obviously a load of things that I need to do to check this car, but it's got the original certificate of authenticity in here, and there's just tons and tons of paperwork, loads of stuff. So the previous owner's also got some newspaper clippings talking about the 968. And then this is a letter in here as well, 2014, just to confirm that it's okay for you to sell my Porsche. I still love it and miss it, but I know I won't be able to drive it anymore. Thanks for doing that for me. Oh, it's so sweet, isn't it, history like this? So yeah, it's got a ton and ton of history in here. So the long and short of it is, I've essentially been offered a car here that I'm struggling to price. I know the money that the guy wants for the car, and I don't think he's been unreasonable for it, but my job here as a car dealer is to make sure that he's getting the right money for the car, and also that the person who's buying it is paying the right money. And with this sort of stuff, it gets quite difficult. I've been here before with selling some classics, and I do enjoy it because there's something different about it. It's exciting, and inherently the person that buys it is going to be very excited about this car. So essentially what I've ended up with is a car that's lovely mileage, low owners, only 3 owners on this car as well, steeped in history, is potentially a classic that hasn't had its run yet, so it's going to be a good opportunity for someone to buy. It's in good condition. We need to get it onto a specialist and have a look underneath it as well, because that's going to be key. But I know it's been garaged for the last 11 years, which is as long as Mick has owned it. Just need to try and work out what the right price is. It could be anywhere north of 30 grand, 40. But then there is something a little bit unusual about it down here. But before I do that, I'm going to do a quick check on the car and just make sure that it's okay. I'm just going to dive in and do a check and just see what it's giving me out of 1,000. So essentially, when you go into Vehicle Score, what it does, it gives you a number at 999 or 1,000, and it's telling you whether or not the car is a good car, bad car, or indifferent car. Now, this particular example hasn't scored very well out of 999, and I'm not surprised because the mileage is low, which is never a overly optimistic thing on such an old car, because higher mileage with better service history is probably the one to buy, although this is low mileage and good service history, so it's kind of covered that base anyway, but also it's not taxed, not MOT'd, and that does knock down the score. There's something else on here which is a little bit alarming as well, and it has mentioned that a car has got a mileage discrepancy, which is a bit of a concern. So when I buy the report and go into it in proper detail, it's showing the car's currently got 3 owners, which is lovely. It's never been a taxi, which isn't hard to believe. Not been written off, not been salvaged, not been scrapped, not been stolen, not a high-risk status. It's mentioning there has been a number plate changed, but it's also sort of saying there's no major red flags. It's got positives such as low mileage, clean MOT history, and it indicates a lower risk profile. And when you go into the old MOTs, there's very, very few fails on here, which is great to see. However, there's one thing that I've spotted, which is certainly something that you need to bring up with a potential buyer. This car was MOT'd in August 2011, before Mick bought it, and the mileage at the time was 38,894. It then passed its MOT in 2012, and it done 40,331. But alarmingly, the year before, in 2010, the mileage was 39,240. So this car lost miles that year, which obviously, unless you drive backwards, isn't going to happen, is it? Now, when you look through all of this sort of history on here and look at the data, I am adamant that that is a mistake that's been made. So the owner, previous to the person that we're looking to do the deal with, had owned it for ages as well. They're not going to knock 350 miles off on one test. Surely they're not going to be that stupid. But also, when you look at the sort of data, it's showing it's done 37,000 miles, 38 and a quarter, 39 and a quarter, 38.9, 40 and a quarter. That should be 39.9, shouldn't it? Someone's put an 8 instead of a 9. And they buggered that right up, haven't they? Because it's stamped into history. Anyway, I don't think that's a problem for the next buyer. Is it a problem? Tell me in the comments below. I really don't think it is. But overall, clean bill of health, nice car, nice spec, nice condition. Here's the problem. It's the only one I've found with an automatic gearbox. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. Now, I have driven it around the block. It's not an awful gearbox by any stretch of the imagination, but it is an early Tiptronic gearbox, and Tiptronics don't have the best reputations for being an engaging drive. However, there's an argument that if you're going to be driving this affordable classic down to the south coast in France, and you've got your Targa top open, and your climate control on, and you're sat in these beautiful seats, does one want to have to change gear? Or am I trying to sell that to myself? I don't know if that could be the Achilles heel on this car, or if that could actually be the selling point, because I've only found one other auto that I can sort of compare to, and it's a black one with way over 100,000 miles on it, and it's 25 grand. Whereas this one is half the mileage in a better spec. Is it 40? I'm getting a bit lost with this, because the last thing that you want to do with something like this is try and be too ambitious when you put them into market. So I could go, put it on for 50 grand, and let's just see if there's someone who's a lunatic who's been looking for this car and is willing to pay way over the odds for it. The problem you've got there is, what you're signalling to all of the market is, I'm just having a chance on this. And that's not what you want to do. You want to get the price right when you go into market. So, if there are any enthusiasts watching, what do you think on this one? Is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I think it's a good thing, because it's different, and different is good. We're all a little bit different, aren't we? So there we have it, the Porsche 968. Is this still a bargain classic car, or are they on the up? Who knows? I clearly don't know, and I could do with some help on it. The other thing I could do with some help on is you could do with buying some tickets for the Audi TT raffle. I've been really careful not to talk about this raffle too much, because I don't want to be that guy pushing tickets on you. We're massively undersold, although we have made a little bit of profit, which is great news, because a proportion of that profit is going to, and I've decided, a men's mental health charity. And I've decided that for good reason after reading some of your comments on some of my videos in the past. Anyway, there's a link in the description below, and there is still a free ticket for all the people that are watching our videos. It is free TT. Use that as a code and you get one ticket for free. So you can have it for now. What's your thoughts on this then, guys, girls, toasters? Is it worth 40? Is it worth 50? Is it worth 20? Do I bother trying it at all? And what's going to be interesting is getting into the specialist, which is our next job, and seeing if there's anything wrong with it. So we'll be doing a follow-up video on that. In the meantime, thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers.